Welcome, everybody. For those of you that are tuning in, and I want to welcome back Brian Zazzara, co-founder of the Zero Point Energy Project Group nonprofit that was started, at this point, what, Brian, a couple years ago?
2.5 years ago now, yeah.
Okay. Who's dedicated to the research, development, promulgation of zero point energy technologies and a banquet of other suppressed technologies. So again, I'm really excited to have you back, Brian. And there's
Thanks
been a
for
lot
having me, John.
happening lately. So I know what we're going to start talking about to get started is really some of the projects we've been working on. I'm also a
Mhm.
member of the Zero Point Project,
Yes, you
Zero Point
are.
Energy Project Group, and I'll let you kind of take it from here.
Sure, John. Thank you for having me again. It's great to be here. Thank you for the support of your organization and your followers as well. Like he said, my name is Brian Zazzara. I'm one of the co-founders of the ZPE Project Group Inc. You can always get more information on us at zpepg.com. We're a 501c3 not-for-profit. All of our fundraising efforts go directly into the research and the science. None of us take any salaries. We've got a couple hundred people literally around the world that are everything from like regular normal office people to research scientists, physicists, engineers, and everywhere in between. We've been attracting some bigger names in the industry as well lately, which has been pretty cool. I want to touch on something that just happened last week. This has been something that we were working on kind of behind the scenes for a little bit, but we just did an episode of Divine Science with Gaia, the Gaia Network. So shout out to Sid Goldberg over there. He's the executive producer at Gaia. But
That's great.
I met him on a cruise. I was out on a cruise with Billy Carson and his Forbidden Knowledge group during his Consciousness Awards expo that he had down here. And that was a fascinating event. We were on the cruise. Giorgio Tsoukalos was there. I met a lot of interesting people. Dr. Stephen Greer was there. So we all had a chance to kind of meet and mingle.
Wow.
We love how synchronicity works. It's how you know you're on the right path, the right place, the right time. But so I showed him my car and I told him what I was doing. He says, "This is funny because they just scrapped an episode. They had an episode planned for season 2 of Divine Science called The Quest for Zero Point Energy. And they just didn't have enough information or knowledge on the subject matter, didn't have enough material, and they scrapped the episode. And here I come along and I'm like, just give me a meeting, give me an hour of your time. I'll bring in a couple of my heavy hitters. So
Hard to
in my
believe though
past,
that.
I was an executive producer as well. So we
Mm,
talked, producer to producer, did a
wow.
couple pre-production meetings and ultimately helped them develop not only a roadmap for the episode, but a whole slew of interview questions. And we sent Matt Klee, who's our CEO of ZPEPG. He went and did an interview with them. And we also called in Dr. Moray King, who's now an official member of our group and our technical advisory committee. So we had him fly out to Boulder, and he interviewed with Gaia. So that's a big
Mm,
thing. That's going to be able to not only get our name out there, when that airs next year, but more so that this is a whole new target audience, much like why I do doing an interview with you and your audience. It's a whole new target audience that will see the possibility of the future of what it could look like with free, abundant energy technologies.
So what can you tell us about some of the current projects? You don't have to name them all, but
Sure,
maybe some that
sure,
you think are probably having the most activity on the back end. And I mean, like, different technologies that the group
absolutely.
is researching.
So let me be clear, right? So we can't, until we're ready to come out with stuff, right? Flying under the radar and making sure that these things can get out to the public requires us to not divulge specifics about projects. So, we can't show you any cool pictures or cool designs. We can't reveal sources and methods and stuff like that. But what I can tell you, hypothetically, right, in theory, there are many ways to get to zero point energy. And what we're talking about, just to be clear, if some of your audience is new to this, we're talking about over unity. These are COP, coefficient of performance over one, meaning you put in energy to a system, you get energy out of a system. And in theory, that would be a violation of the laws of thermodynamics if more came out than goes in a closed system, right? But we're not living in a closed system. So there is this vast sea of energy. We call it the 0 point field, the Dirac sea, chi, prana, whatever over the ages of time, right, that it's been called. So tapping that is a challenge for the ages. We
Yeah.
are of the opinion that those technologies have been accomplished, that they've been achieved over the last 80 to 120 years by various scientists and various inventors. We're also of the opinion that a lot of those successes have been caught up in legal ramifications like IP and patents and things were shelved by companies who it wouldn't be in their best interest for that. Or those technologies and those inventors were eliminated from the scene from big oil interests, which $13 trillion a year interest is enough to value a person's life. So we're being very careful. We have safeguards in place to prevent those same pitfalls, if you will, from happening.
Yeah.
So what we're working on, lots of different types of way to tap that energy. I know in our last call I went over a bunch of them, but just to go over some of the basics, you have things that are solid state, meaning they have no moving parts, and you have things that are electromechanical that have moving parts that might spin, that might swing, that might move. You have electrostatic or electrodynamic devices where the parts don't move, but using electromagnetic fields, it moves the ether around it. Okay, there's things like Tesla coils, and this would be like the Bearden Bedini MEG device or the Floyd Sparky Suite, triode vacuum amplifier. Lots of different technologies fit into these different pigeonhole, buckets. And we are researching all of them. We have researchers that are actively pursuing water technology. This is like Walt Jenkins, Stan Meyer type technology. That was really big in the mid 90s to early 2000s in the Clearwater, Florida area. And we have been in contact with a lot of those inventors and their contemporaries. The Floyd Sparky Suite device, like we talked about, we've been working on Bearden and Bedini's work. We have access to the entirety of their energy from the vacuum series, and that's something that we made available to your group members as well as kind of a research partnership. As
Yeah.
people support your level one communities in your incubator, they can also have access to the Sajeka files, which is an archive of 100 or so seemingly classified-esque material that has all sorts of documents dating back, all up to a century, and that entire energy from the vacuum series. So we have people actively pursuing all of those technologies. You and I and a couple other people are involved in one of the electromechanical device builds. I have to say, you're one of our stars right now. You put a lot of time and effort into a device build, and we can't really talk a lot about it on here, right? But I do want to acknowledge you. One of my goals with this project was to take myself or other people, like yourself, without formal physics or engineering background, right? Without PhDs in this stuff, like an average person, and be able to, with parts that you can buy online, be able to create a device that does something that modern science says should not be possible. Just imagine what that could mean for humanity, right? Where we have half of the population of humans on Earth don't have access to clean water and electricity. They're still burning old growth forests to cook their food and provide for heat. It's ridiculous, right? We're talking billions, like 3 to 4 billion people on the planet, right? So this isn't about necessarily charging your Tesla, right? But that's where we start because that's where we're at. EVTOL, like air cabs, we're talking like vertical takeoff and landing drones that are becoming a big technology play in the next 5 to 10 years. They have 11 minutes flight time, 40 minutes flight time. But we could replace 88 kilowatts worth of lithium ion batteries that are really heavy and bulky with a Pringles can and have unlimited flight time. You fly a drone out for an EMS pickup or something, or in the middle of a storm or aftermath of a storm, and land it on top of a hospital. And instead of running huge generators, the drone could just plug in and power a hospital after a storm. Like those are the big picture things, like why we're doing this, right? So I know I'm rambling, but I'm on my soapbox. So
Hey,
this is
Brian.
the stuff that I'm passionate about. Why we're doing this, you know?
Yeah, no, and really to follow up on that, and like you mentioned earlier, a lot of these technologies aren't new. They're not, we're not even the inventors of this stuff, right? These
Right.
technologies have been out there. There were different approaches for making these technologies available that didn't work out. For example, the inventor tries to file patents and there's national security orders placed on the technology, or then the inventor tries to approach investors and then the investors sue the inventor, or the SEC goes after the inventor, everything gets defunded. Like,
It's
what are
not.
what are your
It's
thoughts on
not
that? What would
always.
be ZPE's approach for promulgation?
Sure, sure. I know personally plenty of inventors who have had national security orders. Okay, we're talking Invention Secrecy Act of 1955, or whatever the heck it is, a national secrecy order that says you cannot talk about this, you cannot research this, you cannot continue to develop this, and if you do, or if you talk to anybody about it, or if you even tell anybody you have a national secrecy order that's been placed on this, it's a violation and it's a 20-year prison sentence. Do not pass go, do not collect $200, right? The United States have been using that as a legal, unethical, but legal method of suppressing these technologies for years. There's over 5,000, but I want to say in the last few years it's gone over 6,000. But there's somewhere around 5 to 6,000 active, in place national secrecy orders on patents that have to do with medical technologies, advanced healing, energy technologies, transportation technologies, advanced propulsion technologies. Why? It's all the same technology. Once you figure out one, tweak something and you've got the other. So you can't necessarily release a technology that can, and I'm saying this hypothetically, right? It's no claims. Something that could cure cancer or fix a broken bone just with a wave of energy, right? Because where does that wave of energy come from? So you can't release one without there being the questions of, well, there's the energy technology. And if you have the energy technology, then you have the propulsion technology. The powers that be, if you will, want to maintain the status quo because there's a lot that has to shift when these things happen. So I get that. I resonate with that. But that doesn't mean that we have to not have nice things and we have to squash the advancement of the human race
Yeah,
simply because a few crazy people might use it for a weapon, or the threat of that or the idea of that. These things are going to change. They're going to change eventually,
yeah,
but it's these types of technologies and a shift in consciousness of our species. So important.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. I think,
that is so paramount to this process, is
yeah,
that we as a species shift in consciousness. We just had, okay, we're filming this on November 6th. In the US, we just had elections. Regardless of politics and regardless of the fear and the ideas that might come, you know, we can all do this if we all do it together.
bringing up the point of consciousness, that's kind of one of
Sure.
the cornerstones for level one communities and
Absolutely.
incubator. So the community component is centered on a consciousness development concept of community. And it was inspired by Dr. Greer, actually.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I want to say I completely agree with that. And I think that we could be one of those retail partners that Matt Eisenberg talks about
Mhm.
that can in turn contribute back to ZPE so that ZPE is able to continue to do that research and bring out more of the other technologies that people
Sure.
like Level 1 can help distribute and disseminate. But our approach being that sort of centered more around really the awareness component, like you're saying, the community, the consciousness component that brings another level of application to these technologies, of usability and awareness that I think is really important and not just a profit motive or bottom line thinking.
Well, let me just tell you from the get-go, right? When I met you probably a year and a half ago now, I had in mind when you shared your vision of what you were doing with Level One, I had in mind our promulgation strategy, which is the end game, the end result of all of this. Because we're the research organization. We're not going to be manufacturing products that people are going to buy. Yes, we will be building them, and our design partners and engineering partners will be manufacturing prototype level stuff. But our end goal is it's all going to be given away. This will be Creative Commons licensed so that partner companies can take these technologies and go and run with them. And
Mm-hmm.
go build a better mousetrap. Go incorporate them into your designs, right? You have a company that makes drones that you're selling for $350,000. Sell one for $450,000. It never has to be charged. You have a company that's
Right.
making, cyber trucks and long haul vehicles for electric vehicles for long haul shipping.
Yeah.
Well, why have to stop at superchargers along the way? Throw in the technology, and now you've got automated long haul shipping that's fully green.
Mm-hmm.
But it starts at this Level One, right? It starts at the grassroots
Mm.
in the communities. So we do
Yeah.
need partners like that. It was my understanding that the big dog devices that could truly be a game changer in the industry were the ones that we had to be most careful about, because those would be the threat to the greater status quo of the energy dynamic. I was wrong. I don't admit that often, but in fact, it's more threatening to, again, the powers that be, right? Whoever wants the stuff to stay hidden. That's a topic for a whole other discussion, but it's more threatening to the status quo when the average John can spend $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, right? A quarter of what it costs to put a solar system on your roof. And without any formal training, can build something in his den that can prove over Unity and power his house. When we're ready to come out with these technologies, it will be secured. It will be in the blockchain. It will be non-fungible, right? NFT type stuff. It will be distributed across millions of computers and file systems before we even release the information publicly. This is why grassroots efforts are important. This
Mm.
is why teams like the Level One communities are where this change is going to happen. This change is going to happen in the hearts and minds of the people. Okay? When this is the time in our history to take back our sovereignty, by raising our consciousness, by coming together in unity and in love, and by allowing these technologies to no longer be sequestered, we can gift that to our next generation. And that's why I'm doing this. I know a lot, I can speak for a lot of people on our group of why they're donating their time, talents, and treasures to this project. And I do just I just want to close and thank you for your participation, because it's people like you that continue to inspire me to get up every morning and do this. Um, and I see absolutely, I see every little win, every stepping stone. It's like, John, you just did something that isn't possible. Like, I don't know if you realize that what you just accomplished isn't supposed to be possible. That's awesome, right? And you can share the feeling if you want. I think it's worthwhile for the viewers without going into details, obviously for security reasons, sources and methods, but I'm so proud of what you've done so far, and we're nowhere near finished. We're so proud of what you've done. I hope to be able to record another video with you guys a month from now and have some really amazing news to share. So
Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much, Brian. I really appreciate that. And that's such a great way to close this out. The way you sort of wrapped everything together about us, staying focused as one and working and, in love and transparency and yeah, especially the day after the election in the United States, it's some real um, key messages to take home. And I think grateful for Zero Point Energy Project Group and grateful for all your time and effort and energy, and that you've answered the call to take on this mission and continue to do what you're doing. Thanks a lot, Brian.
awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.